Hello everyone, this is G and I'm back with another video. Hope everybody is well. I'm going to try to keep this brief. Unfortunately, it's another real world video, but I promise you that probably next week, probably within this coming week, I'll get back to my more regular content. I was thinking recently, and I remembered when 9/11 happened, and how all I wanted on TV at on that day was just anything that was not 9/11 related, right? And so, remembering that, I also remembered that as outraged and everything as I am, that I'm not the real world, 24-hour news cycle channel. Watch Tim Pool if you want that, right? So I will be making videos periodically about what's going on because it's literally in my damn backyard now, right? I heard about a protest recently happening, I think it was in Sunnyside, Queens, up on Queens Boulevard. And when I heard that, I was like, dang, that's like less than an hour from where I live on transit. So, I am going to make videos about the real world and what I think, but at the same time, I'm not going to let those videos dominate my channel, right? Because I don't want to be to others. I don't want to be to others what the news stations were on that day in 9/11, right? I don't want to be the one constantly reminding you or talking about real world issues, right? When you're dealing with real world issues, one of the most important things you need is a distraction. And I plan to be that distraction, but at the same time, yeah, I will make videos on occasion, but I'm not going to let it dominate my content. So next week I will be getting back to regular content. There's people, canceling Sean Gordon Murphy and canceling artists who draw themselves with a tan and all this other silliness, and I will be getting back to giving my hot takes on those, so don't worry. But I wanted to make a video because I've been seeing a lot of videos from other people, Candace Owens, Officer Tatum, and a few others talking about how they don't support George Floyd because he was a criminal. All right. Or in the case of Officer Tatum, he actually just put up a video about his response about defunding the police, which I want to make clear I don't agree with. I don't agree with the idea of defunding the cops. As much as I personally don't like police officers, right? Again, I've had positive experiences with some, negative with others. I've seen both good and bad cops. Defunding them will not help anything. It will just make it worse because, as broken as the police system is, it still does serve a purpose in our society, which is to protect and serve, maintain law and order, right? Be a deterrent to crime. Defunding cops does not help. And as I've said in other videos, right, if looting these businesses hurts black businesses and black lives, if you defund the police, you're just going to hurt, guess what, the most vulnerable communities, the poor communities, which in America tend to be communities populated by black and brown people and by immigrants. In fact, yesterday, there was news and even a public statement made by several elected oppressors that we like to call politicians, talking about a possible loot out, not protest, a loot out in the neighborhoods of, I think it was East Elmhurst, Corona, and Jackson Heights. I've been to Jackson Heights and Corona several times in my life. In fact, I have family in Corona. We don't talk, but they're still family. So I hope that they're okay, right? Loot outs, rioting don't help with the cause, right? What people are supposed to be protesting is excessive force and lethal force used by the police, right? That has resulted in people who were unarmed being killed while in police custody. Lootouts and riots don't forward that cause, right? And more importantly, you can see how much that even these criminals don't care about the possibility of the police stopping them if they're willing to pretty much mention, right, or make it public enough, well known enough that politicians of all people, right, who are usually blind to what's going on unless it's an election year, right, have to make a statement saying, please don't loot us, right? Especially since, as the statement by the politicians points out, those are neighborhoods, right, where there's small mom and pop shops, right, immigrant communities who are most impacted already by the coronavirus and now this stupid oppressive curfew. Time and again, these measures that are taken to supposedly protect us, right, are used to oppress and to harm the most vulnerable. And the looting is part of that. There's a lot of videos out of, in particular older women, older black women, right, having to clean up the mess, right, that these rioters and looters leave behind, right? So yeah, as much as I may not like the police personally, we still need them, right? We still need them because this rioting and this looting needs to end. Some less than nice person online told me that I only cared about the buildings, and then when I said no, I also care about the people who work in those buildings, who need those jobs, that income, and that when you bust up their property, you impact their lives. The person tells me, "Oh, Target will be okay. You don't have to worry." In a very sarcastic tone. I'm like, no, I'm not worried about Target. I'm worried about people who work at Target, right? Because they're not getting. There was already issues, right, with Target and them paying employees living wages and all this other stuff. But no, I'm not worried that Target's going to go out of business because of all this. No. That's not it. I'm worried about the local mom and pop shops that don't have Target money. That's what I'm worried about. Those are the businesses that we're going to lose because of the senseless violence that completely takes away from the message, right, that George Floyd's death was wrong. Now, on to the point of my video, right? Many other people, again, Officer Tatum, Candace Owens, many others have made videos saying, look, George Floyd was a criminal. He deserves no honor. Okay, that is true. That is absolutely true. I have no problem with that statement. In fact, Officer Tatum, it's his video mainly I'm going to be talking about here. Even Officer Tatum brings up the fact that the recent spat up deaths that we've heard about George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and many others, right? These people had criminal histories, right? Had extensive criminal records. And because he's a former police officer, right? What he says is that, well, if these people didn't have these criminal histories, well, they wouldn't have the fateful encounter with the police officer that ended their lives wouldn't have happened. And here's the thing. I understand where he's coming from. And I think he's even correct in this. He is not objectively wrong when he said that these people had criminal histories and that it was either because of an active crime they were committing or because of a crime they had committed that the police came upon them, right? He's absolutely right when he says that. Here's my problem. It's not necessarily that he's wrong. It's that what I'm concerned about is that reasoning can be used as justification for bad policing, right? And here's the thing. 2 wrongs don't make a right. I'm going to say that again. 2 wrongs don't make a right. Yes, George Floyd was a career criminal. That also did not give the officers arresting him the right, to sit on the back of his neck, sit on the back of his head for nearly 10 minutes while restraining him, while the other officers stood side by side. Those officers broke the law too, right? There was a video recently, right, of, at least here in New York, I don't know if it's been seen beyond the city, but in Albany, right, there was video of 2 officers several officers really, it was like the two at the front are the focus, right? And one of them pushes a 75-year-old man, a protester, down to the ground, right? Pushed him with enough force to knock him down to the ground. Dude hits the ground, cracks his head, he's bleeding out. He is out like a light. His body is stiff as a board. He's unconscious. And at least on the video, none of those officers help him, right? No one like bends down to like check on him, but then the other one tells him to just keep it moving, right? That's not right either, Officer Tatum. That's not right either. Two wrongs don't make a right. I heard about a story recently where a 22-year-old rioter who was shot by an officer, right? Now here's the thing. This, according to the story, this rioter was on their knees, right, in a submissive pose, right, not resisting arrest, and the officer still shot him. Now the officer claims, well, he thought that the protester had that the rioter had a gun. In truth, he had a hammer. Now some may say, well, gee, the hammer is still a deadly weapon. That's true, not denying that. But the person was in a submissive position, was not actively fighting back. That cop is just as guilty as the rioter, if not more guilty, because they were the one with the position of power, they were the one with the authority of the city and the state, and most importantly, they're the one with the damned gun. If they took that gun and they fired it at this person who was not actively a threat to them. The police are not supposed to do that, regardless of who they're arresting. And with all due respect to Officer Tatum, right, it's very easy to say that, oh, if they had just not been breaking the law, right, this wouldn't have happened. That's not the point. With all due respect to his opinion. That's not the point, right? The issue here, and I'm not trying to discard or discredit their criminal histories, I'm not. But the point is excessive force, and at least in these cases, lethal force, or very serious force, used by police against people who at the time when the interaction happens are not actively fighting and resisting them. A 75-year-old man has no chance in hell of winning a fight with a fully grown armed police officer who is decades younger than he is. There was no need for that officer to do that. Same way there was no need for the officer who shot the cop. Sorry, for the officer who shot the rioter to shoot him. It's still unjustified homicide, sir. The fact that they were criminals doesn't change that. The fact that it's instances of excessive and lethal force does not change just because the victims of it were bad people, right? Or people with criminal histories. Two wrongs don't make a right. And people regardless of their criminal background. I don't have a criminal background. I've never been arrested. But I still worry about excessive force by the police. Right? Because police make mistakes. Or, God forbid, because of this stupid curfew, that I'm outside 5 minutes past my bedtime. As a 35-year-old woman, I'm outside in New York City at 8:05 and a cop notices me. Yeah, I have to worry. Because guess what? I didn't do anything to become a criminal. I didn't rob anybody. I didn't shoot anybody. I didn't take anything from anyone. Right? I have no criminal history. This dumb curfew makes me a criminal if I violate it. And to know that a police officer could use excessive and possibly lethal force on me, even if I, again, don't fight them, right? It's still a perfect possibility because they're the one who has the training, they're the one who has the gun, that they could get spooked, right? And shoot me or choke me or whatever, right? Just because I'm outside past 8 o'clock. As I've said before, we're currently living in a fear state. and trying to, I guess, move the focus on, well, they were criminals. They were criminals. This never would have happened had they were not criminals. Plenty of criminals are arrested. Plenty of criminals resist arrest, but they aren't killed. And I want to be clear. I get it. Deaths of blacks in police custody is not as common as the media would make it seem. At the same time, it is something that you do have to worry about. I look at it similar to things like workplace shootings and school shootings. Are they as frequent as the sensationalized media would have you believe? No, they're not. Are they frequent enough for you to be worried about them? Yes, they are. I've been through active shooter training for my job because I work in a school, right? And we have people who are very upset come to our office. So it is a reality. It is a possibility that we do have to occasionally go through training for and prepared for. Again, is it something super duper common and regular? No, it's not. But it's regular enough that you gotta be prepared. That you've got to consider the possibility of it. And guess what? Criminal or not, excessive use of force by the police, right, is something that all of us, regardless of the color of our skin or our ethnic origin, have to worry about. And it isn't as simple. With all due respect to Officer Tatum, I like his videos, I like his work. But with all due respect to him, it is not simply a matter of just obey the law. First of all, that's a standard that should also be applied to the police. They should also obey the law. And they should also have penalties. That I would have penalties, right? If I were to do what those two officers did, right, knock that old man to the ground to the point where he cracks his head and he's unconscious, I would be arrested immediately and I would face charges. Those cops, that should be the same penalty, right? If I shoot someone accidentally because I'm scared, right, and the person is an innocent bystander, right, it wasn't a matter of self-defense, right, then guess what? I would go to jail because I'm a civilian. The cops should not be above the law. They should not be immune to the law. And I'm sorry, but you can't, or rather, I don't want a person's criminal history used as justification for the police to continue to break the law. When the police use excessive force and lethal force unjustly, even he admits it's unjust killings. So they're still breaking the law, but it's very rare that they'll suffer the same penalty that a civilian will. And that is the problem here. That's what needs to be addressed. Again, yes, these people were not saints. You want to say, look, they were not good people, and we shouldn't act like they were mama's little angel who was taken out of the world for no reason. Okay, that's fair. That's fine. I get it. Yes, they weren't saints, right? But even criminals don't deserve to die in police custody. That's not the purpose of the police. If a criminal deserves to die, we have this thing called death row, right? Which doesn't actually execute all that many people because of the appeals process. More people on death row die waiting to be executed than they actually are executed. But still, if a person's crime is that heinous, then guess what? They'll go through a trial, right? And they'll be put on death row. Or they'll be killed in prison or whatever, right? But it is not the job of the police to use bad police tactics, in particular tactics regarding physical submission and restraint, to kill people. They're not supposed to do that. The cops are supposed to restrain and arrest and throw you in the car and take you to the local precinct to be processed. None of that, unless it is a truly dire situation, right? Again, an active battle for your life. None of that should involve death None of that should involve excessive use of force by the police. And the particular officer, Derek Chauvin, whatever his name is, right, who was on top of Mr. Floyd's head, right? He had a history, like 17, 18 counts of using excessive force against people. There's also the fact that him and Floyd knew each other, right? So some are saying maybe that was a factor, but at the very least, we know he had these complaints against him. He was known to use excessive force. That is a problem, and that should not be overlooked or downplayed or dismissed. The overall problem of the police, right, thinking that they're Judge Dredd, I am the law, is a problem. Them using excessive force is a problem. And I want to be clear, excessive and lethal force against people who are not actively resisting when they are killed. That is a problem. A person's criminal history does not erase the problem, nor does it justify what those officers did. Okay? And here's the thing. Because, again, Officer Tatum says, well, if you're not a criminal, you don't have to worry, just obey the law. Let's say I'm outside. Right, again, I have no criminal history. Let's say I'm outside 5 minutes past my bedtime. 5 minutes after this curfew, and an officer sees me and wrestles me down and either seriously injures me in the process of that or kills me. Does the fact that what makes my death unjust? Let's say I'm killed in this, right? What makes my death unjust? The fact that I had no criminal history and that the only law I broke was an oppressive curfew for all of 5 minutes? Or is it the fact that I was wrestled to the ground by a police officer, and that officer, who's supposed to have better training and more restraint than I do, right, used excessive force, which ended in my death? Right? Me being a relatively good person in the eyes of the law, right, does not, I'm trying to figure out how to say it. Right? I'm trying to figure out how to say this, right? I guess the best way I can say it is that it's easy to dismiss it or to downplay it when the person's a criminal. But then if the person is someone like me, someone who doesn't have a criminal history, then people would be outraged. Oh my God, how could this happen? How can the police do this to an innocent person? That's the point. The police should not do it to an innocent person. The police also shouldn't do it to the guilty. It is not the job of the police to execute people. That's the point. Regardless of their criminal history, police arrest plenty of awful, disgusting people, but they don't kill them. And I don't want... And again, I don't think Officer Tatum means anything bad. I want to be clear. I just disagree with him on this. I don't want the bad actions or the criminal histories to somehow become a justification for the cops to be just as bad. As I've said several times, two wrongs don't make a right. Because you never know when it's one day you are the one being arrested. You are the one being wrestled to the ground. And that's something else that I've been noticing. Like, people want to talk as if property damage isn't a problem. It's very easy to say that one thing isn't a problem or another thing isn't a problem when it isn't happening to you, when it isn't happening in your backyard, right? It's like people saying, oh, you know, the building has insurance. Okay, let the rioter, right, take a bat or some weapon and bust up your car that has insurance, and tell me how you feel after that, right? That's my point, right? It's easy to say it's everybody else's fault or everybody else's problem up until it happens to you. Please stop saying that. But anyway, that's the video. That's all I have to say. Look, two wrongs don't make a right. There was a killing of a young girl back in the 1990s. It was actually right before the LA riots. She was accused by a store owner of stealing some orange juice right? So the store owner, claiming that they were in fear for their life, shot the girl in the back of the head. Was the girl right for, let's say she actually stole the juice. Was the girl right for stealing the juice? No. Was the store owner right for shooting her in the back of the head and murdering her? No, she wasn't. And sadly, the store owner got a very light sentence in the end. Not because of the jury. The jury wanted to put her away for like 15, 16 years. But because the judge felt sympathy. Justice wasn't served on that day. And justice isn't served now when you try to argue either intentionally or unintentionally that the police have a right to argue or rather that the police have the right to use excessive force, right? Or that somehow the criminal history of a suspect, right, sort of brings their death upon them from the police, right? It's that argument of, well, you brought it upon yourself. And believe it or not, I've seen that argument used even for David Dorn, right? Well, he shouldn't have been out there. It was a riot. He brought it upon himself. Those rioters still had no legal or moral justification to kill him. Because the only reason he went out was to protect his friend's business. That's why he was out there. Those rioters were in the wrong for rioting. Those rioters were also wrong for killing him. You can't argue that he brought it upon himself. You don't have the right to kill another human being just cause. And likewise, it's very easy to say, these criminals brought it upon themselves. It's very easy to say that. But the police still, it is on them to resolve things without having to kill somebody. So again, it's very easy to say that these criminals brought their own deaths upon themselves until it's you on the other end, or someone you know on the other end. Two wrongs don't make a right. But anyhow, that's the video. Please let me know what you think. I'll be getting back to regular content at some point next week. Like I said, I got real world stuff to do, but it's early here in the morning, and I figured let me just get a video out. Again, sort of vent some of the real world feelings and frustrations I'm dealing with. So let me know what you all think. I'll see you all next vid, and I hope you're all happy, healthy, and safe, and I will see you around. Bye.